I'd like to introduce our president, Will Burns.
Yay!
Yay! Yeah, Will, hit it.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay.
So, I will introduce the Toastmaster here. But first, if we have any guests looking out there? Nobody wants to speak as a guest. Okay. The theme of this meeting is heroes. And I'd like to ask each of you right now to take a moment and think about what makes somebody a hero in your mind. In my mind, it's somebody that steps up in cases where they may not be fully capable or where they're fully ready to take on the task, but they're not really aware of that yet. So their belief in themselves is kind of outstripped by their own faith. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Toastmaster, Rahul Bass.
Yo!
Good evening, friends, guests, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. My name is Rahul Bass, and I'm here to start the proceeding and make sure that the program is on track and we have all our role members present and doing their duty. With that, I'd like to introduce our counter for the day, Jeff Shipley. Would you introduce your role, please?
Good, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I'll be playing the role of the odd counter tonight, which means it'll be my job to record everyone's use of filler words, such as like, you know, so, but, and, tongue click, pause, copies, repeats, or false starts or stutters. So please watch your speech so I can listen to you and not focus on this task, and I'll be giving a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Yay! We also have our general evaluator, Scott Terry, who would be coming on to the stage later on in the evaluation section of the meeting. Our timer for today is Dan Craig. Would you explain your role, please?
Yeah, Dan.
My role is to keep track of all the speaking events. Table topics will start, and they are 1 to 2 minutes. The green light is turned on at 1 minute, the yellow light 1 minute 30 seconds, the red light at 2 minutes, and remains on until the end of the speech. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. The green light at 5, the yellow light at 6, the red light at 7, and remains on until the end of the speech. We have a longer talk tonight, 7 to 9 minutes. So I'll do 7, 8, 9. Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes, the yellow light at 2 minutes 30 seconds, the red light at 3 minutes, and remains on until the end of the evaluation. All speakers and evaluators have a 30-second grace period after the red light is turned on. Then we'll start to applaud. Table topic speakers need to speak for at least 1 minute to qualify for votes. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
We also have our joke master and greeter, Satish Sabapati, who will be coming on at the end of the meeting to tell us a joke.
Yay!
Hey!
Our ballot and leader counter for the day is Jean Samington Craig. And now, the word of the day, which will be introduced by our grammarian, Jesus Rios.
Yay!
Go, Jesus.
The word of the day, magnanimous. That's an adjective. Magnanimous. It is a very, it means very generous, forgiving, particularly toward a rival or someone less powerful than oneself. For example, in a magnanimous gesture, Prince Robert donated much of his inheritance to a school for troubled youth. I will be listening for creative language. What else? Let's see. I will be listening. I will make note of any exceptionally good or bad uses of the language. I will give a brief report at the end of the meeting, and I'll tell you how to use the word of the day and creative language.
Great.
Those were all of our role players for tonight. At this moment, I'd like to turn over the meeting to our table topics master, Mr. Slobodan Dumulowski.
Yes, Slobodan. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for responding. The first thing I thought when I saw the toast, I have a role tonight was, I wish I had some more time. And then my second thought was, how appropriate. I'm going to ask you now to talk without having any time at all. So, do we have a volunteer? Anybody except Seth for the first question?
That's funny.
Well, all the guys are just like Seth. Anybody else could? I really want to see a guest, but there was no guest tonight.
No guess.
So anybody else besides the people who?
Who don't have a
We
role.
don't have a role.
Okay,
Those
okay.
who don't have a role go next.
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll go in everybody will get a chance.
Yo!
All right.
Yeah, Will.
Picking up.
So, Will, what do you think about the weather? I mean, 70 in December in Iowa. Is it good, bad? What do you think about it? Thank you.
Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and viewers at home. The weather is a challenge of our patience and our ability to adapt to change. I know each and every one of you has been here for some time. For me, that some time is 28 years in Iowa. For others, it may be 4 years. Others, it may be a series of months. But all of you have experienced the climate of Iowa. The searing summers, the frigid winters, and everything in between. Frankly, I'm excited because this might mean that Fairfield could actually become the hot new tourist spot, the Riviera of the Midwest.
The reservoir?
The reservoir. Well, I think it's obvious that expansion would have to happen. We need development money, grants, and support from our local, regional, to really accomplish and bring together to realize the promise of what Fairfield, Iowa, and the entire Midwest could be.
What a magnanimous response. I don't know if that's correct, but I wanted to say that. So, Seth, I didn't mean to take you out of the, you can still, volunteer if you want to. That was a great response to a change. So, who wants to be the second person? Thank you.
Come on.
Hey!
Take it to the bridge.
Thank you, Jane. Now, I'd like to know, how do you feel about a surprise? Good or bad? Do you react emotional most of the time? Logically, do you try to rationalize this? Or you try to search for your maybe intuition to see what it means? Or you have your own magnanimous way of dealing with that? Twice. Thank you.
So any kind of surprise.
Any kind of surprise. What is your typical response to a surprise?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Gene.
I think we have to talk about good surprises and bad surprises. Because my reaction will be different based on which category the surprise is. That makes sense. A good surprise, what's there to respond? I mean, really, it's just happiness and I'll take it. Maybe I don't understand how it got there, but I'm not gonna question. Great, get my surprise and go for it. Maybe start looking for the next surprise. Well, if that happened, maybe I could leverage that a little bit and get this other thing to happen. So opportunity, surprise can be the beginning of an opportunity. Bad surprises, surprises that make me feel uncomfortable or shocked or somehow not quite understanding why something emerged. I tend to pull back and just say, what information am I getting from this? Particularly if someone surprises me in their behavior, I might say, oh, so what does that tell me about where they're coming from or my relationship with that person? Maybe I need to adjust my thinking on what that relationship is. So I tend to think of surprises as being places where I can get information and move forward. Positive surprises, hopefully in a continuingly positive, surprised way, and negative surprises in such a way that I don't incur that same surprise again. Hopefully I learn something that keeps it from happening in the future. I think that's about the best I can say for surprises. Yeah.
Go!
I think she was hoping for a miracle. A good surprise. Somebody says, the truth will set you free. Anybody knows who said that?
Jesus.
Well,
I
besides
thought
Jesus,
it was Jesus, but I wasn't sure. So.
That sounds good to me.
Let's go with Jesus.
Hey,
So,
Chris, did you say?
Who wants to be the next one? Not Jesus, I mean the next person to talk.
somebody raised their hand over
Not the
there.
next Jesus, but the next person.
You already have a stall.
I don't, anybody who wants to go, nobody wants to go, I can go.
Go.
I think we will
All right,
to
all right,
ask
so then,
Seth.
all right, so that was
Welcome back, brother.
Long time, so I just had that urge to speak,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
Gotta get the juices
Yeah,
flowing.
yeah.
Great, so the truth will set you free. And Mr. Jesus says that.
Jesus said it. Jesus said
Hazen
it.
says that. What do you think he meant by that? What is the truth? Whose truth? How do you find that truth?
I'd say that's a great welcome to me to come back and do that. Okay, so why this question is very appealing or interesting to me is mainly because of one reason. The facts that I grew up with in my life. I'm calling them facts, nothing else. But you could label them as Vedic tradition from India. You could label them as values, cultures, traditions taught to me by my parents. I'd simply put them as facts. Facts because I saw a lot of people putting those virtues in their everyday life. So now when Jesus said, the truth shall set you free, I think for me that would mean to be doing things which do not hurt others. Now, a truth can hurt somebody because truth very often is not taken in the rightmost manner that it should be taken as. Those truths, how important are they? I would say they are very important. I'll give you an example. My father, when I was very young, used to tell me for certain things, that there's no way I could achieve them. They were very hard and they hurted me a lot. But the truth is, they were facts which I had to live with. Going ahead, I always aspired to fight against them and realized when I would not have fighted against the truth, I might have achieved much more. Trying to relate back, I didn't notice the time has gone over what the limit was. I was trying to go into a very deep conversation, but keeping it short, summarizing, truth definitely sets you free when you don't resist it. So welcome truth into your life, no matter what they are. You will be free from all the sorrows, pains, and failures, and the negative things in your life. It's a statement very deep and profound, and nobody, not a mere person like me, could speak it in less than 3 minutes.
I don't think Raul can answer a question without going very deep. This was a magnanimous answer, I think. Do we have time for one more?
Got time
One
for
more.
2 or 3 more.
One more.
Seth. You want to come up now?
Of course, thank
All right.
you.
No, because you're such a ready speaker. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is it? But I'll make one right now.
Okay.
I mean, I do have it here, but I'll just make
Okay, good.
What is your favorite table topic to talk
Okay.
about? And why?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Table Topics Master, and viewers at home. My favorite table topic to talk about is the spontaneous co-arising that exists in every moment as experienced on the cutting edge, the leading edge of reality that we all interpret in every moment with the senses. That 1/10,000th of a second between experience out here, the stimuli and the response, in which the mind interprets and creates a story around what the experience is that's happening. I like to live in that little space and kind of swim in that a little bit. Because the truth will set you free. But first it's going to kick your ass. And the truth that sets us free is this great truth that in that 1/10,000th of a second, when the stimuli and experience gets interpreted in the mind, when the brain goes through the amygdala and comes up to the cortex and either stops for the long way through the emotional center or goes right through to the quick frontal cortex for processing. Either way, there is this 1/10,000th of an instant in which we get to interpret what's going on. I like to speak in that space. I like to speak in that effervescent, ebullient, flowing space, because it creates a we container with the audience. There's actually a relational space that begins to occur with the speaker and the audience that creates a sense of peace, creates a sense of joy, creates a sense of connection between the speaker and the audience, but also with one another, a kind of good feeling. And that's what people like, and that's what I like to do. So I'd like to say that my favorite table topics topic is the topic of the omnipresent, spontaneous co-arising of the audience's sense perception and the speaker's sense perception in this thing we call truth.
You got time for one more question, or we get set for the last one? All right, so I think you should take a couple of minutes now and vote for the best.
See who fell enough time.
Oh, okay, that's good, thank you
The
for.
qualifiers are Will Burns, Gene Simonton Craig, and Seth Braun.
That's pretty good.
So at this point, we should vote for the best table topic. Thank you very much for voting, and those are great speeches. And now Darlene will actually tell us more about what she thought about the speakers.
Go, Darlene! Bring the fun.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, our first brave soul was Will. And first of all, I want to say I think all of you did an incredible job because you weren't just posed with one question. Within that question, there was like 2 or 3 questions. So to pull that all together, I think all of you did an excellent job. You greeted the audience. You had good gestures. Some, I felt, there were some that were really good, and then some might have just been a little bit nervous, but there were points when you just really, it was really clear with your gesture. And you just came right out here and just took up the space, and your voice was projected really well. So my only suggestion would be with some of the gestures that they have used. Jean, how do you feel about a surprise? I thought you did a great job of, in the time that you had, of talking about these 2 areas, the surprises that aren't so wonderful, and then the surprises that are wonderful, and you use the stage to, you were standing in one area for a period of time to talk about the one, and then over here you moved. One thing I noticed is that you didn't greet the audience. And you also, I know them already.
Surprise!
And you also talked at a very nice pace. It was just a real steady, nice pace. That was quite nice. Okay, Raul, how do you define the truth? You're very comfortable. You just come out here, you're very comfortable. You stay in one place for a while, then you move to another, and it just, for me, it's just really effortless to watch you. You also, however, did not greet the audience. You had really wonderful pauses. One I thought was really good when you were kind of talking about your father. There was a nice pause when you said, but the fact is, it just really gave us time to consider that pause and the impact that it had on you. And the other thing I just would recommend is just being aware of your time, because you ran over a little bit. Seth, what is your favorite table topics? You demonstrated a great use of you were collecting your thoughts in the beginning, using that pause. And I could just hear this deep breath, this like sigh coming out, and being aware that you're collecting your thoughts, and that's great use of time. You did greet the audience. For me, there was a lot of data to absorb in that 3 minutes, so I kind of got lost with all of that. But I did like how you came back and tied your beginning, and you closed it really well in your end. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And I'm turning the meeting back to the Toastmaster Rahul Lutz.
Yeah, Raul.
Now that I've gone over time, I'd like to take 1 more second to tell you the biggest conclusion that I had for my speech. I hope I'm given the permission. If not, the thing was, it's in realization than in the details. All right, with that, I'd like you to welcome Tom Trainer, who will be reading Objective for John Loroth.
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, no distinguished guests, viewers at home. You could be a guest, just come and down and visit us. John is doing project number 3. He literally started out to do project 2, but realized what he had picked didn't fit 2, but it fits 3. So he's going to do 3 now and do 2 later. That makes perfect sense to a Toastmaster. We learn how to count in a magnanimous way. So John's evaluation points from the guide, which is a little bit more specific. He's to prepare a speech that has a clear general purpose to either inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire, and a specific purpose. And it can be more than any, it can be 2 or 3 or 4 of those. It's also to be organized in a manner that best achieves the purposes that he's chosen. Beginning, body, and conclusion should all tie in and reinforce the purposes. The speaker is to project sincerity, conviction, strive not to use nose, and not to be too nervous. So to introduce John, who's been a member here just a very short time, his title is Want to Fly. Watch out for that first step. It just might change you up. He wants to persuade you that learning to fly is a life-changing experience. He would like you to take that first step into the larger, fun-filled world of aviation by taking an introductory flight. Please welcome John Morris.
Yeah, John.
Moving it to this side because this is how I practiced at home.
That's important.
It is important. Golden speakers, magnanimous guests, and viewers at home. Fasten your seatbelts, hold on to your hats, and adjust your altimeters because we are going to learn to fly. In 6 minutes, I really can't teach you how to fly, but I can give you what I think is a very important first step. And that first step is to take an introductory lesson. I'm going to show that by taking this introductory lesson, we will have such an amazingly great time that we're going to want to be private pilots and go all the way. What I hope to do is show the 3 things necessary for us to take this first step. Okay. First thing I think is necessary is the desire. You need to have the desire to do it. Looking at this picture of the hawk, what does it say? It says freedom. Free as a bird. Everybody says that. What does that mean? Well, what I think that means is that a bird is free because at any time in flight it can go in any direction that it wants. We, on the other hand, are limited to 2 directions. Length and width and sometimes height. The bird, however, can go in 360 degrees. To me, that's freedom. Freedom of movement, freedom of the body. Having a little desire, I think all of us have a desire for freedom in here no matter what level. Second thing necessary to take this introductory flying lesson is you need some time. About an hour and a half. I think what we need to do, the first thing to do with the hour and a half is go out to the airport. Now, why do we go to the airport? Because that's where the planes are. When we get to the airport, we find the first person behind the counter and we say, I'd like to take an introductory flight. He'll say, great. He'll shake your hand, he'll come out, he'll arrange the whole thing. Because he hopes, like I hope, that aviation is going to grab you. And you're going to want to buy a plane, you're going to want to buy gas from him. He's very happy to give you that introductory flight. Another thing, last thing we're going to need is money. Yeah, I know. It's about $200 to take that flight now. When I started, it was like $40 or something. But $200, if you have $200, great. If you don't have $200, you need to borrow it from a friend. Now, in this town, in this area, it's pretty easy to borrow money for this. Because you go to a friend, make sure it's a friend. I have a technique. Make sure it's a friend that has $200, because if you go to a friend without $200, it won't work. Just go to them, you say, I need $200 for a flying project. They'll give you the $200. Now remember that this $200 is only for intro. It's going to cost an average to get your private pilot's license $5,000 to $6,000. So remember this friend. Okay? So you can go back to him and you can say, the flying project was extended. All right, I need $5,000. And he'll give it to you. Now the time, of course, is an hour in flight, but really it takes, 3 to 6 months. Okay, if you're really diligent about being a pilot. You need a minimum of 40 hours in the plane, 20 with an instructor, and then 20 solo. Now everybody knows what solo is. It's when you fly alone in the plane, you're not a pilot yet, but your instructor has signed you off in your logbook, believing that you won't be harmful to yourself and others. So, I remember my first day when I soloed. It was an amazing day. It was one of the scariest, life-changing days since my wedding. From that moment, soloing, from that moment on, I was never the same. And why? Because when my instructor got out of the plane and let me take it up by myself, I'm up in the air and I realized there's nobody here. There's just me. I'm the only one that's going to be able to get that plane back down on the ground. And when you're sitting there and there's that much on the line, and you have, let me just say, and you have not BS'd your instructor to the point where you made him think you were a good enough pilot, that you were actually good enough to get it down on the ground, and it's an interesting experience. But you get down on the ground, you land, and then they rip your shirt tail. That's tradition or something like that. Anyway, what I'd like to, if anything, get you to just try that first lesson. You don't have to worry about the $5,000 or the 6 months. Because if you get in that plane and you experience freedom, you will get a desire so deep for aviation that nature will surround you with its organizing power and help you to complete your goal. So I think what I'd like to say now is I'd like to read something. And it expresses what the feeling is that I hope you're going to get when you take this introductory flight. And find out, what are you getting yourself into with aviation? Fun, lots of fun. Joy, lots of joy, mixed with fun. More joy and fun than can be imagined. Your everyday life will fade, and the flying experience will be the brightest experience of your life. Soaring above the earth fills you up. It fills you up and breaks you, pops you like a milkweed pod, and spews you out into the wind. You are free. Problems back on Earth are of an appropriate size now, small, very small. The sky is your friend now, and the wind and the sun and the clouds. Awareness infuses every sense there is, and there is nowhere left to go now, because you, in your pure movement, have arrived in your true, unfettered nature, free. Thank you.
All right. Just to comment back on John's speech, I've taken the introductory flight and I'll definitely get back in touch with you for more lessons. At this point of time, I'd like to invite the other half of Tom Trainer, the better half, the trainer, to read Objective for Diane Denmark.
Thank Thank you, Rahul. Diane is doing project number 5 in the advanced communication series called Communicating on Television. Tonight she's doing a training on television. It's becoming a more important tool in training. More than 10,000 companies around the world use television in training, and the number is steadily growing. Television is used in teaching clerical skills, machine operation, computer operation, management training, anger management training, all kinds of stuff. I've been through a few of those. And her objectives tonight is to learn how to develop and present an effective training program on TV, to receive personal feedback through the videotaping of her presentation. Diane is a certified life and relationship coach. She's a success coach. Her purpose is to use her enthusiasm, kindness, and experience to support and inspire singles and couples to live the life they love with the love of their life. The title of Diane's speech is Minimize Your Apprehension About Speaking. Minimize your apprehension about speaking. Please join me in warmly welcoming Diane.
Would you feel apprehension if someone asked you to give a speech? Hi, I'm Diane Denbaum. Tonight, live from the Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club in Fairfield, Iowa, I'm going to give you 3 parts that you can use to create an effective speech. This will help you with your organization. The first is the introduction. I'll be telling you about the introduction of a speech. The second is the body of your speech. The third is your conclusion. Conclusion. The introduction. The purpose of the introduction and what you do during the introduction is tell your audience what you're going to be telling them. Your audience is dying to know, what's it all about? What's in it for me? In the introduction, you want to have a catchy opening. It's your job to capture your audience. In the Toastmaster Competent Communicator Manual, it gives examples for good opening statements. You would use a startling question, a challenging statement, a quote, a picture, a visual aid, or an object. This evening we had a speech, and we had visuals. We had birds, and we had questions about being able to fly. I began my speech with a question. You want your introduction to capture your audience. You want your introduction to lead naturally and with a flow into the body of your speech. The second part, the body of your speech, that's the main part. This is where the speaker will talk about the ideas and the facts that he or she has to share. The Toastmasters Manual warns us that listeners actually can only retain about 3 to 5 facts. You want to remember this. It's very important. Tom Trainer, distinguished Toastmaster 2 times over at our club, tells his members, in the standard 5 to 7 minute speech, you want to have 3 main points max. There could be longer if it's there could be more if you have a longer speech, obviously. Now, you do more than just state the main point. That is the first thing you do. You state your main point. The next thing you do is you state a subpoint. The subpoint develops, backs up your main point. Following these two is support material. This is where you would use testimonials, stories, pictures, props. I remember one gentleman wearing a tool belt to tell us something about his life in one of our speeches. So you're going to support your main point, subpoint, like that. You repeat this formula, this pattern, for your next 2 or 3 or 4, if it's a longer speech, main points. It's very simple and it makes for a very clear and effective body, the main part of the speech. The last part of the speech, part 3, is your conclusion. This is where you tell your audience what you told them. I want to jump back. In the introduction, you're telling them what you're going to tell them. The body is you're actually telling them. Now, in the conclusion, you're telling your audience what you told them. You are not going to repeat the speech. Boring. But what you will do is you're going to come up with a really clever wrap-up. Tracy Goodwin, a speech coach, professor of speech at one of the Midwest universities, says you want to have a forceful ending. You want to be confident. You want to leave them with a bang. You want to make memorable remarks. You want these people to remember you. You don't want to waste their time. This is what makes for a good conclusion. If you use these 3 parts that I have just mentioned to you, the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, when you are writing and organizing a speech, it will be more effective. And you will minimize that apprehension that you will feel when you are called upon to give a speech. Thank you.
Yeah, Diane.
Thank you, Diane, for a great. Thank you, Diane, for a great speech. It was so engrossing that I lost, that I had to come back and take the meeting over. At this point of time, we'd like to take 2 minutes to evaluate our speaker. Looks like we are having a great time here tonight because we have all the pros speaking and all the pros evaluating. At this point of time, I'd like to introduce our pro evaluator, Seth Brown, to read the objectives for Rhonda.
Thank you. Rhonda's doing Get to the Point in the Competent Communicator Manual. She's going to be focusing on organizing the speech in a manner that achieves both a definite and general purpose, ensure the beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce these purposes, and project sincerity and conviction, and control any nervousness you may have. In the West, we often think of 4 seasons, 4 elements, but in China and Japan and Tibet, there are considered 5 seasons and 5 elements. Rhonda's going to continue to introduce us to this 5 elements philosophy because Rhonda has these 5 elements flowing in her veins. The 5 elements partner with 5 major organ systems, giving life energy flow in the body. Sometimes it flows in harmony and sometimes in chaos. Inevitably, these life flows affect our personality for better or worse. How can we be more harmonious? How can we be more vital? And how can these help us master our inner and outer conditions? Interested?
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's bring up Rhonda Whitaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are all in relationship. And within our container, this body, there's a relationship of the 5 main organs. It may be in balance, it may be not, it's constantly changing. But we're born with this 5 main inner organ balance that doesn't change. We can do things to manage it and soften it if it's too forceful, or if it's too weak, we can strengthen it. Things like exercise, deep breathing, meditation, counseling. There are many different ways to help balance our personality. Basically, these 5 elements can control our personality more than we're able to control them. So they can ruin our relationships if they're out of balance. This also means relationships with our inner organs. This chart is kind of stiff and graphic, but it gives you the idea that there's a cycle. There's a nourishing cycle and there's a control cycle. The star is the control cycles. Tonight, after my presentation, you will be better able to identify the 5 elements and the organs they partner with, as well as some of the attitudes that come from the organs when they're in balance and out of balance. And this is a fine-tuning. It's very complex. It's not like a negative emotion is always a bad thing, because fear helps us survive, anger helps us protect ourselves, depression helps us calm ourselves down if we're overexcited, and worrying thoughts can help us be creative. We actually figure out a situation by thinking about it, sometimes too much. The idea of these elements controlling us puts us in a weak position because we are not mature enough to control ourselves. In order to control ourselves and become the weathermen of our own inner climate, we have to know more about who we really are inside. And I can't answer that question for you, but there are professionals who can. What I can do tonight is tell you about the 5 elements through a series of interviews with each of the elements, one at a time. I would like you to write down, to draw a circle and put a star in the middle. And as we go through interviewing these 5 elements, make a note or 2 for yourself about something that's expressed as an attitude, maybe a sense that's brought up, perhaps an expression, a way of expressing something. Diane, Darlene, Seth, Slobodan, Satish, we are all weathermen. We are in charge of the weather in our body. We are responsible for it, whether we know how to do it or not. We are creating a climate. Maybe the person we're sitting next to could be an icy glacier inside, or the person sitting to our left might be a dry desert. These are all conditions that we deal with daily in our life, and we may not know what's happening in us, but it's controlling us. So I suggest you learn more about your 5 elements and 5 inner organs. So we will begin with the interviews now. Our first element is wood, which represents the liver. Wood, how are you tonight? I am tolerant of the breeze. It's just being playful. And I'm compassionate of all those who live in my woods. I nourish fire. And I control earth by holding it in my roots so it won't blow away. And I am controlled by metal. Is that an axe I see in your hand? Stop! I'm angry with you. You've cut too many saplings. Don't come any closer, or you will meet my rage.
Ha!
We have a candle that represents fire. Fire, how are you tonight? I am happy. My job is fun. I always have wood to burn, and I love the noise of the blacksmith's hammer beating on the molten iron. I control ore. I can melt it. I offer my ashes to the earth to build soil and dirt. But when the blacksmith takes the molten iron that he has beaten into shape and sticks it in the bucket of cold water, I am depressed by water. Water controls me. Our third element tonight, is earth, which represents the spleen. Spleen, how are you tonight? I am content. Some enchanted evening. I am at an all-time standstill, being controlled by these wood roots. I nourish metal, inorganic matter, ores. And I am controlling water by holding the water in place. But Farmer says all these rocks have to go. And that worries me because I may lose weight. He's also talking about bringing in bulldozer. I am so anxious about what will happen when bulldozer comes. Bulldozer crushes all my children and pushes me around. And I just can't stop thinking about all these problems. These thoughts are just overwhelming. Our next guest is metal. The metal element is represented by axe. Metal, how are you tonight? Metal represents the lungs. I am courageous. I can fly through the air. I can push the earth aside. I swim through the water. And I cut down anything in my way, growing things. I am almighty. I control wood and all living things. I am controlled by fire because it melts me. And I nourish water. What is that awful smell? It smells like something dead. Oh, it's the little growing things decaying and rotting on the ground that I have chopped and killed. Oh, this makes me so sad. I grieve for their loss. Our fifth element is water, representing the kidneys. Water, how are you tonight? I am wise. God is great, God is good. I am overflowing, and I share myself with all growing things. I nourish growing things. I control fire by putting it out. Psst. And water, myself, is controlled by the earth. The earth holds me. What is that I hear? Earth is worrying about bulldozer. Earth feelers. I'm afraid I may be lost. Call me paranoid if you will. I hear the treads of the bulldozer coming. This concludes our interview. Each of us is responsible for what we do in life. If you want to live your life and incur less karma, it is a good idea to know yourself internally so that you can express yourself in all relationships in a more harmonious and loving way. You are the weatherman. As we are, so is the world. Thank you.
All right, at this point of time, I will again like to request 2 minutes. At this point of time, we'd like to vote for our best speaker. Mr. Timer, did everybody qualify?
No, we had 2 that qualified. That was John Lewis and Diane Denbaum.
All right, so let's vote for the best speaker. And our speakers are Dan Denbaum and John Lewis. Welcome back, viewers. At this point of time, we will proceed to our general evaluation section of the meeting, the evaluation section of the meeting, and I'd like to introduce our general evaluator, Mr. Scott Terry.
Yo!
Yes, Scott.
Welcome, Toastmasters honored guests, the millions throngs that are out there listening to this moment. We're about to get into the evaluation section. Of course, the only section that really matters at this moment. So, that was a purposeful so over there, Mr. So. Let's magnanimously start with Tom. Come on up and evaluate John.
Come on, Tom.
Go!
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, but most especially, John! Almost forgot. We're going to use the manual. For most purposes, you really want to cover these points because that's what we're here for. So, question number 1. The general purpose of the speech was clear. And I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 being excellent. I'm going to say 5 on it. But let me also tell you what I noticed. The general purpose was not only to inform, to persuade, and at one point he entertained us a number of times, but he also was inspiring us. So here's a speech where he did all 4 of the major points of the speech. Well done, John. That's a really good thing. You brought it all together. The specific purpose was very specific about wanting to get us interested in flying, which you did a good job at. The way you organized it supported your specific purpose. And all are all excellent. So we've dropped down to the next issue. Main points, supporting material contributed to the speech's specific purpose. I give you 4. That's above average for your speaker's experience. The beginning, body, conclusion, reinforced your specific purpose. I said yes to that. We had at the state conference, our speaker, which will be on video, I'll get you the link, talked about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the speech. And he says, look, he says, you got up and you opened your mouth. That's the beginning. Your body is what you talked about. He says, your conclusion is what you did at the end. And he was very entertaining. He's got some additional points that are really good to listen to. I'll give you the link. He achieved a specific purpose. As far as I'm concerned, number 4, above average for your speaking experience. You really had me sucked in again. As my wife is a pilot, she's been through this whole routine, and she's really good about, I will see her and look, watching her at the back of my eyes. You know? You were very confident, you were very serious, sincere, minimal nervousness. 4, speaker did not rely on notes, which is great. This is something you know. Essentially what you were doing was looking at an internal video, and you're just kind of talking off the video points. Things that I want to talk about. Hands don't go in the pockets. First thing you want to know is, what's he doing in those pockets? What's going on down there? Why are you doing that? What do you want me to know? I'm watching your hands in the pockets. So I'm making this absurd, so you obviously won't do this again. Hands belong out here. They're signals. They make points. And they also, if you get your hands above your shoulders or below your waist, you will make your point. Here is where most people stay between shoulders and waist. Very normal. You don't make your point. Lastly, what did I like? Pictures, personal stories, very convincing. What else? Why did you read this? Who wrote it? It was really nice, but it didn't tell me why you were reading it. You need to tell us. When you read something, make it clear. What, why, where, what, who, how. General evaluation.
All right.
Thank you, Tom. Excellent evaluation. We're now going to get to Cindy, who is going to fly up here. Would you like to show us how you fly again? I saw you doing that in the back there. And, you know. There we go. Yes, yes.
For your information, I started flying when I was starting to take my pilot's lessons, it was only $12 a half hour. Wow. Not that way anymore. Definitely not that way anymore. Fellow Toastmasters, guests and viewers at home, but most especially Diane.
Hey.
Minimize your apprehension about speaking. Now, if I wasn't clear in the first part, when I introduced her, she was developing or giving a training program that other people would see on television. That's why she ignored all of you. She was focused totally on the TV, and that's why she didn't have eye contact or didn't really gesture to the rest of her audience, because her only audience in this training video was the people who will watch it later on television. So the objectives of the training program were, she gave the 3 parts: intro, body, and conclusion. And by developing those, that was how she was trying to tell the people, at least that's my interpretation of it, is how to remove apprehension from speaking is to really jump into and develop the opening, the body, and conclusion. The training program, how was it developed and given, directed towards the needs of her audience? Well, she's talking to Toastmasters about giving speeches and how to build a better speech. She gave all the directions and guidelines. She gave examples. She had the main point and the subpoint and support to that. And then she actually, what I heard was you gave within that context. We're talking about someone wearing the tool belt. So she actually did, when she was writing on her chart over here, she actually gave support to the subpoint, to the main point. I really like to use some props. You didn't stray away from them because the television kind of gives you a kind of a small box to stay inside of. So she didn't wander away from the, I'll call it a whiteboard, her paper at all that she was writing on, because she couldn't. She would be off screen and you just see that and not Diane. Your voice and gestures then stayed inside the box. Television has a way of making one look 5 pounds heavier, your gestures a whole lot bigger than they really need to be, and she kept it. Where Tom was talking about this and this, the TV doesn't like that. It likes small, controlled gestures, and that's exactly what Diane did. It was very appropriate for the television. And your voice, really enjoyed your voice. She had a lot of vocal variety and good use of pause. I liked you were definitely relaxed, poised, and confident. And I liked your powerful ending. You just kind of came right out and said, make your ending strong. I liked your gesture when you did that. And you had a one-on-one conversation with the camera, which was excellent. Thank you very much for your speech. I learned a lot.
Excellent. Seth, are you ready to rock?
Ready to rock.
Then roll.
Oh! Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, and Rhonda. Let's ready to rumble! Let's rock and roll! The 5 elements, how many of you thought she did great? Yeah. The general purpose, I'm going to go right down. This is the type of manual where they give you a scale of 1 to 5 for everything. I don't like this, by the way. I think it's like lame. I'm going to do it anyways. On a scale of 1 to 5, the general purpose of the speech, was it clear?
Yes.
5. The specific purpose of the speech was clear. What was it?
Be your own weatherman.
Your weatherman. Learn about yourself.
These are the 5 elements. You're going to learn what they are. She said it. You're at the end of this speech, you're going to learn what the 5 elements are. Clear?
Clear.
5. The speech organization supported the speech's specific purpose. Well?
Clear.
5. Yo! The main points and supporting material contributed to the speech's specific purpose. 5.
10.
The beginning, body, and conclusion reinforce the specific purpose. 4. And here's why. The body was fantastic. I mean, it was on. This was happening. This was awesome. But the beginning, too much information, controlling, what? I never saw this before, and you're trying to introduce me to the theory of it. Just tell me what you're going to tell me like you did. Keep it simple. In the end, the weatherman, no, too much right now. And these were the 5 elements. Did you learn something? Ask me a rhetorical question and leave me with that. The speaker achieved the specific purpose. 5.
Yep.
The speaker appeared confident and sincere with minimal nervousness. 4. There's still a bit of timidity. And we want to see a little more of that wood element come out here and just rah. So, I'm talking to you. Better listen to this. The speaker did not rely on notes throughout the speech. 5. Could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? It's hard to keep a speech simple. It takes a long time and a lot of practice to know how to keep complicated information simple. I haven't seen anyone come through Toastmasters who hasn't had to work on this. Very smart, very passionate people who have to pare down their content and just keep it very simple. What did you like about the presentation? Tremendous content expressed, the interviews. Listen, I have studied 5 elements theory in college, in professional development. This was the best explanation of 5 elements theory I ever saw. It was awesome. You had the body language. You had the visual aid. You didn't use any notes. You had it well prepared. I mean, was this great?
Yeah.
Yes. This was fantastic. The 5 elements are a magnanimous system. They allow for a lot of movement, a lot of flexibility. Thank you for sharing this with us. To recap, you got mostly 5s. Work on simplifying your introduction and conclusion. Allow yourself to be a little bit more gritty when you speak, a little bit more wood, and keep teaching us, because you obviously have more to share on this topic. I would like to hear it.
Yeah.
Go!
Did everybody qualify for our evaluations?
No.
No! No! Is that even possible?
Tom Trainer qualified. It's a little unclear if Seth qualified. I'd say honorary. I think it was 3 minutes, 30 seconds, and a tick.
Oh, he's ticked out.
Well, I think we helped tick him in.
We're ticking him in?
Tom.
Yay!
Tick him in or tick him out?
How about Darlene?
Darlene and Cindy.
22.
You didn't mention Cindy.
I didn't because she had an unfortunate situation.
It was unfortunate.
So, who's left?
So, we have,
Give me the wrap up.
the wrap-up is Darlene qualified, right?
Yes.
Tom qualified,
Yeah.
and Seth is ticking, which you get to decide the ticking.
The timer's already said it. I call it. There's no
All right, we're now rocking and rolling. We are going to start with Dan giving us a timing report.
Thank you.
In And table topics, we had Will at 1:30, Gene Simons and Craig, 2 minutes and 1 second, Rahul Vatz, 3 minutes and 8 seconds, Seth Braun, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Speeches, John Laros, 6 minutes 54, Diane Dimbaum, 6 minutes even, Rhonda Whitaker, 9 minutes 56 seconds. Table topics evaluator, Darlene, 3 minutes 22, speech evaluators, Tom Trainer, 3:24, Cindy Trainer, 3:55, Seth Braun, 3:30.
And a tick.
Exactly.
And a tip.
And a tick.
It was his tongue click.
All right, aha counter.
Yes, sir.
Rockin' and roll.
All right, I kept track of filler words this evening. Looks a little light here. Hopefully I didn't let any slip past me. I hate giving freebies. Jesus, 1. You got to slow it down. 1 ah, 2 ums, 1 so, and a tongue click. Will and Gene, you had nothing. Rahul, in your table topics, I counted 3 tongue clicks. Seth, I really hate to do this to you, but in your table topics, you had a tongue click and a repeat. Darlene, 2 uhs, 2 ums, and 2 repeats. Nothing by Mr. Trainer. Mr. Loros, 3 ahs, or uhs, and a tongue click. And that was it.
Yo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jesus, the Marion report of the night.
Slobodan creative language or interesting language. Slobodan on his question or his table topics when he said that the truth will set you free. He thinks Mr. Jesus said that.
Jesus said it. Jesus said it.
Mr. Jesus said that. Rahul, like you say, welcome the truth into your life, no matter what it is. Said he was going 100 miles an hour for me, but the whole topic was really full of creative language, so I'll give you credit for that, even though I wasn't able to keep up with it, but it was really creative.
Story of my life.
John, hold on to your hats. We're going to learn to fly.
That's great.
And something that I'm not quite sure what was going on as Tom was sitting by the piano, he said that was the weatherman. Usage of the word Slobodan, you said 3 times. One of them wasn't, it really didn't fit. Tom used it once, John used it once, and Scott used the word for the day. That's my report.
Yo!
Right.
And we are on to Satish, joke master of the day. All right.
I'll be really quick. I'm going to read out this joke. It's titled The Traffic Citation. This man was driving with his wife and mother-in-law when he was stopped by the highway patrol. When the man rolled down his window, the officer smiled and said, "We have been trying to encourage better driving habits in the States, so we have been stopping our most courteous drivers and giving them awards for their superior driving skills. It's my pleasure to present you with this citation and a check for $100. Wow, said the man, who was very impressed with the award. The officer asked, "Just out of curiosity, how do you think you'll spend the money?" The man answered, "Well, now that I can afford it, I think I'll go and get my driver's license, perhaps even some auto insurance." His wife was stunned and said, "Don't mind him, officer. He always says ridiculous things when he has been drinking." This really angered the mother-in-law, who said, "I knew it. I just knew something like this would happen. I told you we wouldn't get far in this stolen car."
That was great.
That's great.
So it's time to evaluate the evaluators. or I'm evaluating evaluators.
Correct.
Let's start with Darlene. I really liked how you started, how you pulled yourself out in front and you addressed the whole audience. You started with good opening and insight to the group, not specifically to just this person or that person or that person. So it was a nice opening that you brought into it. You need to look at being a bit more specific about certain points that you're utilizing. For example, with Will, he needs to be more specific. You liked his gestures, but they were good and they're bad. So Will made a couple really strong moves, and he also did a lot of his hand-holding trick that he does. You pointed that out. You needed to... Well, it is a magic trick. He's been training with Jesus, you know, so we... You could extend a little bit more of what he's saying. For example, one of the things that Will does really nicely is when he starts loosening up, when he can loosen up a little bit more, and the way that he could speak is more explanatory. But when he starts tightening up too much, the way that he speaks starts stumbling a little bit. There's a lot more specificity and drive that you could start utilizing in what you said to people. I have a whole chart here of what you did positive and negative, and for just about everybody you both did a nice little sandwich. So Jean, you did a positive, a negative, and a positive. For Rahul, you did a positive, negative, positive. For Seth, you did positive, negative. Yeah, okay. Seth doesn't need to have another positive. Tom, I'm going to comment on both the beginning and the end. I really like how you started before he gave the speech. So I'm going to talk about before and after the speech for both of you guys, for all three of you. It was engaging, it was a good reading, which is not always easy to do, to actually read the text and make it engaging for us, the audience. Great use of pause, good movement with the arms, getting out there, as you say, get beyond the limits, the square box in front of you. Good points at the end, encouraging of John, and I love how you can make a story out of his story. It's just wonderful how you could do that. I love how you really drammed down to on the negative with the hands in the pocket and made it a joke, so he'll remember it. I was trying to think of some other ways that you could really stretch yourself. And I love how Seth could really engage the audience. And he really comes out and he says, well, what do you think of this? And what about you? And it would be a nice trick for you to play a little bit with, to see how much you could pull in a little of that kind of thing. Cindy did a wonderful job. I like how you made it slightly personal, but you could push that personal. You could push the sense, you almost said quietly about something personal, and you could have pushed that a little bit more about how you have done that on stage, how you've been on camera, how you've done something. Not to make it about you, but to engage us a little bit more and engage her. I like at the end where you, fun start, energy, good examples, good movements in description. Would have liked to take it a little bit, again, a bit further in how you were saying things. You had great movements. And I would just encourage you, sometimes your voice just becomes kind of settled. And I would like you almost to really come out a little bit more and be stronger because you're so powerful and it's like waiting to crack open. Seth, great energy as usual, great vocal variety, movement, energy, bringing it to the audience. And that's about it for everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good stuff.
As we are running short of time, time for a quick drum roll to celebrate the winners.
Yeah, Raul.
I'll start off with Best Table Topics, and our winner in the Best Table Topics category is Mr. Seth Brown.
Seth.
Also, I'd like to invite Seth back on stage for the Best Evaluation.
All right. Is that one of those 1,000 seconds?
I call that one.
Our best speaker gave a speech on speech number, CC speech type number 3 is John Lawrence. Speech title number 3.
Go! Yeah,
I was supposed to have 1, 3, but I don't think that's correct.
Rhonda.
Oh, it's not. I do not have another speech to give out to Diane, so it's time to invite our President Wilburn for his closing comments.
Well, thank you. We saw a heroic experience tonight. People stepping beyond themselves.
Yeah, Will.
Yeah, thank you.
And I want to call up one of my speaking heroes to talk about another chance that you can express yourself and really take life by the horns. Seth Brown.
Go! Can you believe that January is around the corner?
Oh.
And that means our special meeting, the big party of Toastmasters. This is our big event of the year. And I've spoken for special meetings before. It's a great thing. It's a fun thing. There's a lot of energy. And this year I'm going to be on the phone for the next week talking to professional speakers in the state of Iowa saying, hey, you really ought to come to our club and speak for free.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I'm going to then contact the chair for the meeting and work with them and kind of mentor them on how to run this special meeting. They're going to work with the VP of PR. The VP of PR will write articles and contact the radio station. The chair just makes sure everything gets done. We need that chair. So this can qualify for a leadership project in the Competent Leader Manual. What we need is, who here is not an officer? Just raise your hand if you're not an officer right now. Just raise your hand high. Keep them up high. Let me just see who these people are. Okay. So if you're not an officer, this would be you. This would be your opportunity to step up. It's really simple. There's not a lot of work to do. It's just finding other people to do the work. That's the key. And really, if you get a team, it doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of attention. So who here could possibly be interested? Like, well, I might do that if no one else could, or something like this. Jeff Shipley's a kind of maybe. Scott's a maybe. Who else here is a maybe? Darlene!
Yeah!
Darlene's a maybe. You got 3 people who are maybes. You know, I'm not into pressuring people.
Yes, you are.
On things like this. I like you to see this as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to save time at meetings so I don't have to go overtime talking about it. But it really is an opportunity to grow. Case in point, Livia Cole, VP of PR, really helped do a lot of things. She translated her experience into a position working at the university where she was paid to do the things that she used, and she used this on her resume. So it's an opportunity to build your resume, get experience. Come and see me afterwards or see one of the other officers. And with that, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our president to close this up.
All right, Will.
Coming out. Flying, soaring. Please don't soar off just yet. Stay around for a few minutes. Help us clean up. And with that,